musician and a lover of music since I was a kid in the 1960s. I collected a lot of records on vinyl. You know, we listened to the crackles and the pops, and it was music to our ears. Recent generations, though, music lovers have been listening to CDs and digital downloads, and they don't have to deal with the wear and the tear that a needle has on a record. However, some people believe that today's music fans are missing out on a unique experience that only can be had from listening to vinyl records. Joining us today are two filmmakers, producer-director Kevin Poore and executive producer Rob Males, and they've created a new documentary called Longplaying. It's all about people's love for vinyl records and how some revolutions never die.
Sweet.
Yeah, Rob and Kevin, welcome to the Nowman Show.
Great, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. First of all, what was the inspiration of creating this film?
The inspiration, it actually came out of a visit to a local record store.
Which one?
Canterbury Records.
That's here in Pasadena?
Pasadena, yes.
On Colorado Boulevard, right down the street.
Right down, maybe a quarter mile from. I could walk there and buy a record now.
Yeah, we could do that after the show.
Good idea. I went there with one of our other producers. I'd collected records my entire life. I've never stopped. And about 5 years ago, we decided to go to this thing we found out about called Record Store Day, which is a huge thing every year where lots of great music is put out, one-of-a-kind music, and people go line up for hours to go see it. Well, I didn't know this at the time, and we went to Record Store Day, and I thought I was just going to walk into the store and buy a specialty record, and when we showed up, there had to be maybe 150 people in line around the building waiting to get in to buy these records. And he turned to me and said, we have to make this into a movie because there's something going on. And basically that's what we did. We started that day, you know. I took out my phone and filmed a little bit, and we were off to the races after that. So.
Wow, so Record Store Day, that's, when did that start?
I believe it's been going for 8 years now, about 8 years. They would probably be angry if I got it wrong, and they probably will when they find out. Yeah, but it has been going on for a while. Yeah.
Well, let's watch a clip from the film right now.
The first record that I bought was The Cure's Japanese Whispers.
Hound Dog.
I'm Still Standing.
Thriller.
Double Dutch Bus.
Ghost Town. Birds of Fire.
Beatlemania.
Benny Goodman and High Five.
Kiss record.
And Justice for All. I Want to Hold Your Hand.
The Twist. This was your first album?
That was the first one that I purchased.
I never will stop going to record stores. That's ingrained in me and one of the things I live to do.
I think as long as you love music and your taste is evolving, your record collection is never complete.
Well, I don't buy digital music. Ever.
All you get is push play to hear it.
Vinyl, it's real, it rocks.
Why do you love records?
That's like saying, why do you love breathing?
Now, tell us why records?
Good question. For me, it has always been a connection to music that I've felt, and even when I started buying CDs, etc., it never really had that same kind of feel. And then once I started the documentary and started, asking people, I found that a lot of people felt the same way that I did, which is they felt disconnected from music. They felt disconnected from something that they loved so much. And it turns out that people really like to have these physical things, and they like to be engaged in listening to music, and they like to read the liner notes and look at the artwork and, et cetera. So why records was basically because it makes you concentrate, it brings you into the experience.
Absolutely, and we're going to get into that experience that we all share here at this table and beyond. Now, you interviewed, was it over 100 people for this film, right?
Yes, 100.
All different kinds of people, because I saw musicians I knew, one that I personally met.
Yeah.
Also, record store owners, record producers, even a record executive I think I saw in there, a couple DJs.
Yes.
So, how did you go about that process of finding the people?
I'm a list maker.
Yeah.
I like to make lists.
Yeah.
You know, I like two things I love other than music are making lists and puzzles. And the minute we started doing this, I started making lists, and the lists were things like, what do people want to hear about records? You know, and one of the lists was, who out of everyone, who do I know that may be able to help me talk to people, or who do I know that even collect records, et cetera, you know, based upon, past jobs and stuff. And through that list, I contacted people, I interviewed a few people, and the last thing I would say to anyone that I interviewed was, do you know anyone who collects records? Do you know anyone who might want to talk to me? You know, wherever they are, whatever it is, I'll go talk to them. And then people would ask their friends or ask someone else. And I found that if it was a particularly good interview, meaning that we connected and we had a nice time, they would turn me on to 5 or 6 people. If it was a decent interview, they would give me a name. So and that's how it spread out from maybe 8 or 9 people on the original list to 105 people at the end.
Wow, it's funny, whenever it involves music, there's always a network of people that want to talk about the experience. It's really amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you bought records, what was the experience? What was the excitement of the experience with the records?
I believe that, and to some extent this continued with CDs, but I believe that there was more of a sense of community in local record stores, et cetera, when records were the prevailing media. And so you would go into these communities and people would share, what they were listening to, or tell you that's a horrible record, don't buy that, et cetera. And I think that sense of community bonded people together in purchasing, listening, experiencing music in a way that slowly disappeared when CDs came in, basically because CDs were smaller and and they were, although the CD itself isn't fragile, the cases were fragile and the artwork,
you can't really look at it. It's too small.
It was too small, And I think that that's really what it was. I think it's the community behind, vinyl. And I think that's what's brought it back today in some extent. People like to be involved in that kind of music experience where it's not only them and personally engaged, but they have friends over. One of the aspects of the movie that's not played up because it just didn't fit was the concept that there are people who have listening parties now. They have 3 or 4 friends come over and they, open a bottle of wine or, whatever they're going to do, and they put records on and they're listening to music, and it's an experience that's hard to obtain by putting Spotify on and letting a playlist run.
Well, let's look at some of your personal favorite records, shall we?
Okay. This is Jimi Hendrix' Axis Bold as Love. Not only is it one of my favorite records, but I've always loved this cover, And it was later on I found out that Jimmy wasn't enamored with this cover.
Oh, wow. Because of the subject matter.
He was a little hesitant to have his face put on, the body of Vishnu or one of them. So, but I've always loved this, and I think it's just amazing, and I think the artwork itself kind of transcended the time in the same way that the music did. The package of the art and the music together was an amazing,
It was really.
Thank you. You're welcome. John Coltrane, Love Supreme. I brought this because I thought that the photograph actually captured everything that's inside of it. It's a very serious, piece. And I personally think that this is one of the most important pieces of popular music ever created. And as I tell people,
Why is that?
I think it connects with something that's deeply personal to him, and at the same time it explains a lot about the nature of being human, and this expressed his love for, his deity, what he believed.
Yeah.
And I think that when you sit down and listen to it, and if you're in a frame of mind where you're listening to it, it will make you connect with whatever, you think. I always tell people that if there is a God, then she came down and she kissed John Coltrane and he made this album.
Wow.
So
See, and that's the beauty of it, is you can, just with that, you can create a conversation.
that's what people would do when they would sit around. I remember sitting in my, my lonely teenage bedroom, and then a friend would come over and we'd listen to the same album, flip it over,
And
side
you're sitting there and you're opening up the jacket, and by the way, I love this cover.
Yes.
And you're reading all the liner notes, or as the songs are happening, like 21st Century Schizoid Man, you're actually reading the lyrics.
Yes.
It's just awesome.
What do they really mean?
Yeah.
And you make your own stories up.
Let's see some more.
This is an album, Misplaced Childhood, by a band, Marillion.
That's one of those bands I've heard, but I don't think I really heard this album.
Yeah, and this was had a hit song on it, but Kaylee is the name of the song, by the way. And if you listen to 80s rock radio, it'll come popping up. But I just thought the theme of this and the artwork, it was a continued theme through their first 4 albums. And I found it to be, I just really liked it, and basically I wanted to make sure that people saw this album.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah.
This is an album by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who's a great Qawwal singer.
What label is that on?
This is on Real World.
That's what I was going to say. I recognize the label.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel's label. I love this album cover, and I listened to this 1,000 times, and I like the fact that there's a connection in the music, and they're basically singing the Quran.
Wow,
in this.
Wow.
Yes, it's a very religious album. I like the fact that the music's playing, he's singing. I don't understand anything he's saying. You can pick up names, proper names in it, but it connects deeply. I find it very, emotional. I find it very. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful album, and that
Is the lyrics in Arabic?
Yes.
Arabic? Yeah.
Yes, they are. And so he's from Pakistan. So
Pakistan.
So I don't know what he's saying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Iggy and the Stooges.
Iggy and the Stooges, Metallic KO, and this is basically came from a bootleg recording that was it ended up being put out on Passport, which was a label that did a lot of things like this.
Yeah.
And I liked it because this album cover actually captures everything that's going on inside here. This is a noisy album recorded from the audience, and at the end of it, Iggy gets in a fight with some in the audience, and you can hear them punching each other on the. And I've played this album a ton of times, and I love this album. And I managed record stores for a few years, and I used to remember it would get to be, about 10 minutes to closing, and I would tell everyone working there, "Hey, it's time for Metallic KO," because I knew the customers were going to go like, "What's going on?" And then they would hit the door, and I'd get to go home early. And then finally, it's a band that's currently in existence, Elbow from Manchester, England. They make beautiful music. These songs are fantastic.
What style would you say it is?
Well, they label it as prog rock.
Oh, they do.
But without the solos. So it's
really?
these beautiful, ornate, orchestrated things with the guy. Guy Garvey sings these fabulous songs, but there's no solos in it. So for people who just like songs, which is like the basis of every great record, then they're a great band. So.
One of the best albums of modern times. Right
Oh, thank you, really?
Yeah.
Wow, then that is definitely something that I will check out. I'm always learning new things every day, and you can't possibly hear all the music that comes out ever.
And that's exactly
and
it.
even if you could do it 24 hours a day, you still wouldn't hear everything that there is to hear your entire lifetime. That's how amazing all this is.
Yes.
So are there particular artists that you would say are most famous for their album covers?
Well, yes.
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 Like this is Roger Dean right here.
Yes, it's
essentially.
And That's Roger Dean. It looks like mixed with Hypnosis and a few
Yeah.
other people. But
Yeah,
Roger Dean was an artist who drew these fantasy landscapes, and Yes and Budgie and a few other artists from the time would use his artwork. And it was almost like a continuing story because he had a very unique style, floating cities and, you know, strange animals, etc.
A lot to look at.
Yes.
That you couldn't fit just on the front cover. You had to open the whole thing up.
And sometimes inside,
And
too.
sometimes inside as well.
And in one album in particular, I remember Relayer. You know, I remember playing that album, and I said, "Oh, look, there's a rattlesnake on the front," you know,
I
that
know,
kind of
right,
thing. And
exactly.
so he was very famous, very famous. Hypnosis was a graphic design company that did lots of albums. They did most of the Led Zeppelin albums. I think they may have done all the Led Zeppelin albums, and Pink Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon, you know, Wish You Were Here. They did all of that, you know, all of those things, and very, very, you know, famous.
Why does music sound better on vinyl?
In the movie, that's what we spend the longest amount of time discussing.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different idea of why that is. I personally think it has to do with the fact that music is are waves.
Yeah.
Music is a physical thing, and someone actually talks about this in the movie. Music's a physical thing, and digital music is a computer program.
Yeah.
You know, and I know people, and it sounds great. You know, don't get me wrong. Digital music can sound great. I just think there's something different between, you know, physical music and digital music that that is lost. There's something lost in translation.
Do you have a large collection?
Of albums?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, not compared to the people in the movie, but
Yeah.
I have over 2,400 albums.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Ron?
About a tenth of that, about 240.
About 240 albums. So talking about the documentary, you're at a point now where how are you going to distribute this film?
Probably, if there is such a thing as a challenge when you're working on a project that's about something that you really love, raising awareness, which we've successfully done. We've had a couple of private showings, invite-only audience, and the buzz from that, the feedback from that has been quite positive, actually. The biggest hurdle is probably the last hurdle is finishing costs for the movie. But, you know, we probably chose a subject matter for a movie that could be the most expensive in the world.
Right.
Music. We would have probably been better off actually flying Matt Damon to Mars and filming it in real time. We have, as I said, we've reached out. We've spoken to some record companies, actually some pressing plant owners, and just generally put the word out there. And we'd be quite happy to find someone to partner up to, help us with the finishing costs. We're also looking at crowdsourcing, and it's mainly for licensing. You know, we're good boys. We're doing everything the right way. We're making sure everybody gets paid for the use of the material. So
that's the biggest challenge.
It's the biggest challenge, and it's one that's becoming, as I said, gradually smaller. We have people interested. We're looking to get that finalized, and from there, who knows? As far as distribution goes, there are thousands of art theaters spread across the country that this movie fits perfectly into. There are a number of TV channels, internet channels that this would also be a perfect fit for. So we have a lot of options.
And some of them are very interested. But, you know, there's interest up to a point.
Right.
And that point is, where's that piece? You know, it's that thing where it's like, well, that piece is coming. So.
Yeah.
And social media. You know, there's a huge audience there, I know personally, that likes vinyl records.
You know, you hear about the music business, and you hear so many negative things about the people in the music business.
Yeah.
And let me tell you that the people that I talked to, almost to a person, were generous with their time. They loved the music. They cared deeply about what was happening with music. And I don't want to say that's a surprise, but if you hear so many negative stories, you know, the music people, you know, blah, 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 and you don't experience that at all. That was kind of surprising. People were really, really kind to me during the course of making this movie. I think that that was unexpected. I don't want to say surprising. I would say it was unexpected that people would be that so generous with their time.
And I noticed some people in the film, Benmont Tench,
yes,
keyboardist of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I saw Rhett Miller from the old 97s.
Yes.
I saw a gentleman from Lone Justice.
Yes, Marvin Ezzioni.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't know how to pronounce the Italian. So and I saw Andy Chanley from the Sound 100.3.
Yes.
And I actually saw someone that gave me this.
Really?
Yeah, Jah Paul Jo.
Oh, yeah.
From Dread Zeppelin.
From Dread Zeppelin, yes.
He's no longer with us.
Yes.
So we can dedicate this episode to Joe. This is for you.
Great, thank you. My movie's dedicated to him, too.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
What a nice guy.
He was really nice to me. And, you know, if I had any guilt over anything in the movie, it's the fact that we hit it off and we corresponded. It turned out we had mutual friends. And the last thing I said to him was, I'll come back and I'll bring some sandwiches and beer and we'll hang out in your store, because he owned a record store, Resistor Records. And
Sierra Madre, right over here.
Sierra Madre. And I never made it back to the store because of, you know, the same reason I was there. So
So it's quite a variety of different people giving their personal stories, which is fantastic. So great work on that.
Oh, thank you very much.
So now you've screened it where so far?
We were at Cinefamily on Fairfax in Hollywood, and at the Art Theater in Long Beach.
Oh, wow.
And we're talking to a couple other places right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that might happen pretty soon.
And we can help get the word out that.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
And records never did really go away in England, right? Or in Europe. Is that correct, Ron?
The CD craze caught on later in
really?
the UK. Yeah.
So it took over the vinyl over there as well, or?
Eventually, yeah. Oh. Everybody loves the portability.
Yeah, that's true.
Of the digital. I balance both. I like to have the records, but at the same time, I've got my MP3 player with me at all times. But some artists, they maintained the vinyl pressings. You know, they kept putting their work out on vinyl. I don't think it ever really died or went away.
Well, it's surprising, but just last week I read an article that last year records outsold CDs in England.
You know, I think I saw that somewhere too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll tell you something.
Yeah.
You know.
And the digital downloads are kind of really a mixed bag. I mean, it's like it's exposing music on one hand, but it's also not paying the artist that took the time to make it. And,
I think the advent of the internet and digital music has made artists more accessible to people. It's easier to find new artists. With the radio stations, you click on one of your favorite artists and they give you suggestions for similar artists or you and may also like. I think that's great for getting the word out there, but you can't be actually owning a copy of something.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well,
a vinyl copy.
A vinyl copy of something. And it, like you were saying earlier, going back to that idea of community, that vinyl had a unique way of just bringing people together. I mean, I know in college, two of us worked in a record store at on the campus of University of Oklahoma. And one of my roommates had a record rack, and people literally came to us because they knew where the good music was.
Yeah.
You know, and we had all kinds, and it was hours and hours and hours of talking and looking at the jackets and reading the liner notes, and I mean that's why I know a lot of the things that I know about who worked with who and when and how I memorized some of the lyrics.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for coming on the Nowman Show. I'm here with Kevin Poore, Rob Males, the movie Longplaying, about records. This is Niswander, and you've been watching the Nowman Show. Keep on rocking. Dan.
How you doing, Dan?
Niswander, the Nowman Show. And what brings you to the event tonight?
I'm actually presenting an award to a friend of mine, Antonello, who has a whole differently abled kind of campaign for clothing and things like that. A brand for all, essentially. That's what the brand is for, and it's exciting. I'm presenting it. My thing is I'm becoming the first differently abled pop artist and singer. So I perform with Coldplay and Bruno Mars and doing some stuff there, so it's exciting.
Fantastic. I heard you have a great version of Imagine. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was on a TV show a few years ago. I auditioned for, and I sung Imagine, and 500 million views later, I was signed with Philip Lawrence of the Bruno Mars camp, and now working with and being mentored by Chris Martin from Coldplay, and I'm doing some awesome stuff there, about to release an album, and so lots of cool stuff happening. TV show, number of things.
That's fantastic. Give us your name again.
Emmanuel Kelly.
And where can people find your music right now?
You can go online just on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Emmanuel Kelly Official, or YouTube. At the moment, we have a single coming out very, very soon, so it's exciting.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for being on the Nowman Show. Hello, this is Niswander. I'm here at the Music Awards at the Hard Rock with the Siren, Kaisi Berick. It's great to see you again, Kaisi. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic, and I love seeing you, man, every time. Great energy.
Thank you. It's always great to see you. I can't wait to see your performance tonight. And what's the presentation? What's the honor tonight that's being given to you?
So we performed in Las Vegas for one of these events, and they were so happy with what we brought to the table that they said they wanted to honor us for our live performance and have us do it again here. So it's like an award for, I guess, for our live performance aspect of everything.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it's great to be honored. I understand how that is. What's next for you? Of course, you're going to be coming up soon on the Nowman Show. What else is coming up with the Siren? What's new?
Yeah, I love the Nowman Show, and it's socially conscious shows and events like that really drive me. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like. So the next thing coming up is I'm shooting some music videos right now for some singles coming out on Kiss FM later this year, next year, in a few months from now. So that's going to be a big deal for me. I've been working towards that for a lot of years, and that's it. Radio release coming up soon. So
fantastic. So where can people learn more about your music? I know we've talked about that before, but you can always repeat it as much as you want.
All right, it's whatisthesiren.com.
I'm here at the Music Awards with Judy Tenuta. Judy, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. You didn't bring your accordion with you tonight.
Had to leave. It's at the Betty Ford Clinic. Whoever needs it.
What are you doing right now?
Oh, I'm working on a film, and it's an independent film, and then I'm going to be touring. I'm going to Palm Springs to do a show.
What is it?
A show, my live show.
Oh, fantastic.
In Palm Springs, yeah.